Hello, family, and thank you so much for joining me today on my channel, The New Wife. Today, we are getting ready to get down with some seafood on my first mukbang with my sister, Markeeda McLean of the Grace Project, talking about what it's like being a wife, balancing it all, and the type of wife and type of work you need to do as a woman. Let's go. The New Wife. If this is your first time, hello. Thank you so much for joining me. And if you're one of my regulars, welcome back, y'all. So I know you see me rocking my wonderful Grace t-shirt with my girlfriend and sister friend, if you will, Markeeda McLean. And wait, y'all, make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe if you haven't, so you don't miss any of this goodness. Okay? So I'm going to let her introduce herself and break down what these wonderful sweatshirts represent.
Hi, my name is Markeeda McLean. I've started the Grace Project March of this year. The message is simple, but it's impactful. Be kind, show love, give grace. Especially in this day and time, we all can use a little bit of grace and extend grace to one another.
Definitely. So, y'all know I've been married for 2 years. It'll be 3 years in August. And Keita?
7.
Oh, yeah.
7 years.
Well, we're going to get there. And I was actually in their wedding, and Trent and I were in like our, maybe first or second year together, I think.
It was, it was new.
Yeah, it was new. So, wow, that just took me back low key. And now, I have my bonus baby who is 13, and you have?
I have 2 children. My son is 10, and my baby girl is almost 2.
Yeah, so y'all pray for her.
Please.
Pray for me too, but put her first. So we're going to jump right in. We have some wonderful seafood from here in Philly. I think it's called Shake Seafood. I heard about it. So I was like, well, let's give it a try. We're going to be eating and talking about a particular, it kind of started from a particular verse in the Bible, but it's going to really go into some other things. So it's actually Proverbs chapter 25, verse 24. Can you pull it up, Keita? Because I don't want to misquote it and then pull it up in the Amplified version. I actually have this highlighted in my Bible. You don't hear most people talk about it. And if they do, they kind of just, keep on going past it. But it is Proverbs 25, verse 24 from the Amplified Version Bible. It says, "It is better to live in a corner of the housetop on the flat roof exposed to the weather than in a house shared with a quarrelsome woman." I'm going to read that again. "It is better to live in a corner of the housetop on the flat roof exposed to the weather than in a house shared with a quarrelsome woman." Now, I know some of y'all are like, oh, I'm turning. I don't even want to hear them talk about this. You probably the one that really, really need to watch it, boo. Okay? And listen, this is one of the reasons we have the shirts on. Yes, because we got to show grace to ourselves and to our family, our children, our husbands, our spouses. So, Keita we got to eat. Now, y'all know I'm going to eat. She had an interesting way of what she thought about it. And we know quarrelsome basically just means like argumentative, like, always
the
ready
nagging,
to go.
The bittering, the complaining.
Ooh, that's good.
So when I look at that scripture, I interpret it as if, it's saying like, you'll do better off in a small little corner on the roof in the cold,
in the bad weather,
than to have to deal with a wife. And didn't have to deal with a wife that's always nagging and complaining and the arguing, the bickering and the fighting.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much how I interpret it. I was sharing with Dee, I interpreted that way, but my little twist on it is, okay, so when you're dating and before you get to the marriage, was that woman already that way? So did you choose to enter into the marriage thinking, oh, I can change her, or it was okay then and now we got years in and it's no longer okay?
Right.
Or did once you get into the marriage, all of a sudden did it seem like this person changed?
Right.
And I feel like if that's the case, marriage is partnership.
Definitely.
It takes work. So you have to do the work together, and you also have to do that self-work.
Definitely.
So if you got into marriage and it was already like that, it's like, okay, you made the choice, but you can't fix her now that she's in.
Right.
So now that you guys are in, so are you going to stay and do the work, whether that's counseling, whether that's marriage counseling together,
Right.
you know, healing old wounds and you know,
Jesus.
baggage that we brought into the marriage.
Right.
Or did you cause her to be that way?
Right. Yeah. And I think when one of the things she just said made me think was, sometimes we think that we can change, like marriage changes people. No, marriage, you're going to, first of all, life, you're going to change. You're not going to be, if you marry somebody at 18, you're not going to be the same person at 30.
No, not at all.
You know what I'm saying? So, or beyond that. So I think you also have to take into consideration that certain things are going to show themselves before marriage.
Right.
You know, you call them red flags, red lights, train wrecks, whatever you want to call it. But there's going to be, if you will, warning signs or things that will make you stop and say, is this something that I can work with? Or is this something that's a deal breaker, if you will, for me? Because if you see it and you see it again and you see it again, if he keeps letting you see it beforehand,
he gives us
it's a
signs.
reason. That may be that this is not the right road, so get off, exit stage left. Or is this something that you're willing to deal with because you love this person?
Right. And if you make that choice and you're willing to deal with it, my thing is we have to be committed to the promise. And we said until death do us part. So that means that until death do us part, we have some hurdles we're going to have to jump through together. We have some battles we're going to have to fight together. And marriage is harmony. And as I told you earlier, the beautiful thing about harmony is in order to get the perfect note, it's two different sounds.
Yep.
So therefore, it's two different people that's gelling together for the perfect outcome. And in order to do that, it takes putting in the work.
Definitely. So, this was good, y'all.
This is good.
So, another thing, you know, that why I think personally women, because that's all I can speak for because I'm a woman, struggle with this verse is because they're like, well, if I got something to say, I'm going to say it. You know, cool. However, it's not what you say, but it's how you say it. And I'm learning and continuing to learn that it's also when you say it.
The timing is everything.
Oh, my Jesus.
Timing is everything.
Sis, you can't be talking to them about bills as soon as they come in the house, okay, from work. You just like, you said you was going to pay this bill. You left the trash. Like, let that man calm down, let him relax, you know, chill a little bit. I'm not saying you got to cook or nothing like that. I cook in my household. I enjoy cooking. You know what I'm saying? Maybe have the conversation after y'all eat. You know, one of the things we do in my household, when we're in the bed, like we're going to sleep, we don't talk about money. We don't talk about our children at all when we're in the bed. That's not what we're talking about. That's stuff that can be talked about throughout the day. Excuse me, but this husband and wife time, this bedroom time is going to be what it's going to be, which is bedroom time, okay? We're not bringing up nothing that's going to make me turn to the east and make you turn the other way, okay? So that's something that we learned, though, because I always felt like, well, the nighttime is the best time to talk about it. You know what I mean? And I'm like wide awake, and he like, yo, it's like 2:30, you know. I'm tired, or vice versa. Now that's just what works for us. I know Keita and them, they have like a different kind of system that they use. I kind of remembered a little bit, but we shared.
So we have something where we check in, and we just call it check-in. And checking in doesn't always mean like it's time for me to vent and pull out the bad things or the things that I'm not. Sometimes that happens. It's like, hey, I felt a little uncomfortable when this happened, or I want to talk to you about this. But then it's also a check-in to say, hey, babe, I appreciate you for doing X, Y, and Z, or thank you, or you're doing a good job. So we have those moments where we look at each other and be like, hey, we checking in, you got to check in. And sometimes it's like we don't even have a check-in. Be like, you good, I'm good, and we keep it rolling.
Yep.
But you just have to find a system and a time that works for both of you guys, because timing is definitely everything.
Seriously.
Because you can have the same conversation, but if the timing is off, it's going to be interpreted a totally different way.
If that man is watching the game, sis, that is not the time. Okay? It's not the time. So you will continue to learn your mate, you know, and it takes time. It takes time because y'all are not. So when Trent and I met, he was 20. Look at Jesus. I'm about to tell my age now.
We ain't that old.
I know, but still, he was 22, 21 or 22. Y'all forgive me. But now I'm 31, and he'll be 30 in February. We're not the same people.
We're not the same, and that's the thing in growing up in a relationship with someone, and just growing. Period, is learning to. Well, pretty much always learning to respect the person for who they are in that season. Because when I was 18, things that I laughed and giggled about, right now I'm 32, I probably don't find 90% of that stuff funny anymore. So, you know what I mean? So being able to grow together and to see the transition together from pretty much teenagers. Like Brandon and I had just turned 19 and he was getting ready to turn 20. Now we're 32 and 33.
Wow.
So being able to grow and realize, okay, my husband, she used to like this type of chocolate, but now something I used to like, I don't like anymore. But ultimately, it's just all about continuing to give each other like respect, and allowing, yes, we're partners, but at the same time, we're still individuals.
Yes, oh my gosh.
So you can't take from me who I am.
Yeah, oh God.
Yeah. So when you realize that, because just as we're growing together, I'm still growing. I'm still learning me in womanhood and parenting, mothering, owning a business, operating a business.
What owning no businesses at 18?
It's so many hats that we wear, and the baggage that comes along with it, and having that support from your spouse is important. Yeah,
I think too, another thing that's really important, and it's still, if y'all notice, it's really still all centered around this verse, is transparency before you get engaged and before you get married. Because if you are not, one, you got to be comfortable enough with your past or relationships or whatever the case is. You got to be comfortable enough with it first before you can share it with them.
Right.
So being transparent about things, to me, if you're with the right person, helps your relationship. So I personally had triggers that I didn't recognize that I had until I got with Trent.
Oh, a lot of times it's like that.
Jesus.
Man, the first 1 and 2 years of marriage, it'll pull out a side of you that you ain't even know existed.
Girl.
Yes.
And one of my triggers was a flipped over phone. If that phone was on that face, I started to get like hot and bothered. So what I realized was I had to let him know that. And I said, so listen, XYZ. So, when the phone was flipped over, I knew it was because he was dealing with another woman. I'm not talking about my husband. I'm talking about previous relationships. And once I expressed that to him, he was like, oh, okay. I'm glad you told me that. No problem. Now that was the end of that. Now the other side of that is also not just my trigger, but the other side of it is insecurity. I cannot just automatically assume because of what I dealt with in my past that the person that I was with at that time, which was Trent, was doing the same thing. Exactly.
Right. And a lot of times we have to check our insecurities.
Yes, definitely.
And not assume and put things on. And like you said, all that comes with communication. Just a simple question. Or taking time to really learn and know that person. Yep.
And the other thing is you cannot assume that. So let's say I never said anything to him, right? And now he keeps, flipping his phone over. And I'm pissed. He like, what's wrong with you? Oh, nothing. Nothing. Now it's 3-4 days.
You still mad.
And I'm still mad at this flipped over phone.
And he don't even know.
And for all I know, his phone could be flipped over because maybe he's embarrassed that he broke it. Like it's cracked. Or maybe it's an old phone. You know what I mean? Maybe he still got a flip. You know what I mean?
Or it can just be a habit that he does. Or I hate light and I hate notifications. So in my room, when I go to bed, my phone is on my nightstand this way because a lot of times I can't fall asleep until probably about like almost an hour after I'm laying down. But if I get a notification or an email, something that comes up, it lights up the phone, and I hate seeing that.
That reason right there.
So I flip it over.
Listen, now think about it. If those things, that's just one thing. That's one trigger. If they're not talked about, you think I wouldn't be a quarrelsome woman. You know what I'm saying? Now, honestly, I can be honest and say there have been times where I felt like I was on my husband about everything. And I started to realize and recognize it. And it's like, wait a minute, check yourself. Like, are you irritated about something? Are you bothered about something? Is it something that you can just simply ask him to do? And, that's the end of it. It can be fixed. Or are you holding on to something because you haven't talked to him about it? So now you like, and you didn't do this and like, don't nobody want that. Just vice versa. I won't want it from him. So you have to be willing to put your big girl, shoes, whatever you want to go
your
right
big
there.
Girl panties.
Okay. Put your big girl panties on and see if it's you, because it can be you. It really can.
And like really self-reflecting. A lot of times you can sit back, because I'm guilty of that. Like finding myself in the mood or in the attitude or whatever the case may be, and I like take a moment. It could be the next day and I'd be like, oh man, I probably shouldn't have responded that way, or I ain't had to act like that. And a lot of times it's not that he actually did something. It could be that someone else somewhere else didn't piss me off,
right.
It's something else that I'm feeling emotional about. So I'm like being standoffish, or he said something like, or like a trigger. Yeah. And a lot of times those triggers are emotional baggage that we carry,
have not addressed.
Yes, and trauma and things we experienced in our childhood. And because we haven't addressed or properly healed from it, it's hard for us to receive anything that may remind us of the past.
Yes.
And it could honestly be innocent from the person that's talking to us or interacting with us a certain way, and we automatically like,
yes, ooh, child, be on go time, okay? And I think that's also really important, why you have to get to know yourself before you choose to get into a committed relationship. And a committed relationship is far before marriage. You know what I'm saying? And everybody says this, and I totally disagree. Being married is the same thing as being in a committed relationship. No, it is not.
It's not.
It is not. There is there's a spiritual change that definitely happens. There is a different, and let me say it this way too. It also depends on the two individuals. If the two individuals carry and understand marriage and hold marriage to the same standard of being sacred, you know what I'm saying? Then those two individuals are going to approach marriage the same way.
Right.
But if you have two individuals who, oh yeah, y'all, we get married, and to her it's just her boyfriend with a ring, that's how she's gonna treat that marriage.
Right. And it's
you know what I'm saying?
Right. And it's not the same, because Brandon and I were in a committed relationship 6 years before we even said the I do. And honey, once that I do came, I'm telling you, God is my witness. The first year and a half, it was like, who are you? It was like that process of unlearning and relearning. But for why not? Because we stood before God and said, for better or for worse. So why wouldn't he test us? Why wouldn't he test us?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's dating and being committed. Committed dating and committed marriage are totally two different things. Yeah. And then also when you're dating, you kind of subconsciously have this mindset, well, I'm gonna leave anyway. Yeah. Oh, I could find somebody else, or he ain't doing, like, you have this, this plan B. Plan B. When you truly spiritually connected and honor your marriage, you're not thinking about a plan B. You're thinking about the work that we have to do to make this marriage succeed and to honor God.
That's very true.
So when you're doing the work to honor God in your marriage and your partnership, them challenges hit different.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes. And then there's, with marriage, that option of, and I'm also speaking for myself once again, if we angry at each other, first of all, the Bible does say, don't let the anger go down in your wrath. It does say that. So one thing we have always tried to do is not to go to bed mad at each other. And honestly, if we do, we can't sleep. We toss and turn all night long. Excuse me. So it's okay to talk about things. You know what I mean? And it's also, like I said, it's how you say it. It's your tone. It's so many different things. And one thing I've had to learn is to make sure I'm talking to my husband and not at my husband.
Right.
You know.
And that's that respect level.
Yeah, and talking to him as a man.
We're adults. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So all of those things matter. One thing I did want to talk about too before we get off of here, because we had 20 minutes now, y'all, is balancing. Because in my mind, Keita is the master. Her and my girlfriend Corinne are the master balancers of it all.
I'm trying.
Of balancing wifehood, motherhood, and entrepreneurship. I'm gonna put hood on the end of that too. How do you do it? Because your girl is still learning. I'm not there.
Well, see, I don't know. I don't really know how I do it. I just know like what works for me.
Okay, yeah. So tell me what works for you.
I'm adamant about that self-time.
Okay.
And that self-time helps me be the best I am in everything else.
Okay.
So that self-time, and that's me sitting at the table when everyone is asleep, enjoying my glass of wine, reading my book, journaling, and that gives me that 15-30 minute space that I need so that I can be productive the next day.
Okay.
And mommy can wake up at 7 o'clock, 7:30, prepare breakfast, get you set for school, take care of the baby. And then while she's napping, okay, Markeeda, I can't just be sitting and chilling. Time to log in and do my personal work.
Right.
So it's all about having a schedule and then making sure that I'm finding that time to fill myself back up so that I can be productive in everything else I have to do.
Okay. That makes sense. That makes a whole lot of sense. Okay.
Yeah. Because if mommy ain't happy, the whole house ain't happy.
I get it. I get that though. Jesus. I understand. I really do. So it's that me time that's really important. What would you say to a woman who is trying to figure out if marriage is for her or not?
I would say when you know, you know. I kind of, especially like as being a saved woman and you know, you've been praying, like God won't lead us in the wrong direction. And he always gives us signs. So I feel like when you know, it's when that uncertainty sets in, and that uncertainty is outweighing more of like, yes, he's for me, or this is it. Yeah. Then it's time to kind of evaluate and to rethink. So I just feel like when you know, you know. And knowing doesn't necessarily mean that everything has to be perfect in the sense of, oh, I gotta have this done first before I'm married, or before I'm married, or I gotta accomplish this. If that's your goal, so be it. Yeah. But if it isn't those things, God give you a helpmate to help and to support you along the way. But that emotional and that chemistry, between the two, when you know, you know. Okay.
One thing I will say too, and she kind of said this earlier, we're going to try to stop at 25 minutes, be at 23, is in a marriage and in life, let me stick to it, say it this way. In a marriage, I do not believe that you are supposed to lose yourself.
No, not at all.
I feel like with my mom, she was so adamant about being a good mom and a good wife that she she really put her passions and her desires on the back burner to be a good mom, to be a good wife. And she was amazing at both. Not that she was perfect, because none of us are. You know what I mean? You live and you learn. Excuse me. But now I'm really able to see my mom enjoy life and kind of rediscover the things that she enjoys. And my mom, y'all know my mom can sew. She's really good at it. So I'm seeing her rediscover those things and rediscover what brings her joy. You know, what gift she has that she stopped to fulfill her role as wife and mother, which were really important roles to her, which I'm sure that's where I get it from as well. So I do not believe that you are supposed to fully lose yourself in your marriage. I just don't believe that. I believe that God gives us gifts, and those gifts do not stop just because we get married.
You got married.
Because we get married. And like she was saying, if you have the right partner, they will push you. Or support you to make sure your gift is being used. And that's definitely what my husband does for me when it comes to cooking. Because if it wasn't for him, I probably would have never did a private dinner in my life, because I was like, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. He was like, but you can, and this is how you can do it. You know, and I'm sure as we continue on this marriage journey, I'll be able to do the same thing for him, you know. And Keita has her Grace project, and Brandon fully supports it. You know what I mean? And he's, you know, no, that's not right. You need to move that over. Right. Literally, that's how he was before we sat down and do this video. Right. You know what I'm saying? And she supports him.
Yep. And anything I say I want to do, he always believed in it more than I do. Yeah. He believed in how, like, oh, babe, that's a piece of cake. And to me, I'm like, that's a mountain. Right.
Right. Well, it's nothing to them, because they see. You're supposed to see that in your partner, though. Just like when you call friends, like, girl, I was thinking about doing this. And you, girl, yes, you can do that. And you're like, really? You think I can? That's what you need. You need those loud people with the signs and the sirens and the flashing lights saying, go, go, go. That's what you need. Yeah. And I've told y'all before on this channel, you definitely have to be your own cheerleader, but you need to have some cheerleaders around, too.
Some cheerleaders.
Yeah. So.
And just as much as you can be wifey and you can be mommy, you have to be true to yourself, because none of us can pour from an empty cup. So you can put all those folks ahead of you. At some point, it's going to become some sort of resentment, right? Because it's like, okay, what about me? Or when is my turn? That's and then true. Your turn doesn't come to years later when you're like, man, I could have really done this back then or this. Yeah. Listen.
That's true.
We're women. God created us he made us one of the most powerful beings. Anything you can do it all. You can do it all.
It's possible. It's all about that balance. And I remember saying to one of my, I guess you could say mentors, I was like, I feel like God has given me all of these ideas. How am I supposed to get them all done? And she said, if he gave them all to you, you can do them all. You may not do them all at the same time, exactly. But you can do them all. And that's really what I've been doing with my YouTube channel, with my Breath of Fresh Air package, all of these things that I kind of have coming that y'all don't know about yet.
Right.
And you know what I mean?
I'm sorry. And when you say balancing, the truth behind balancing is really prioritizing. Yeah. Because at some point, something is always going to trump what was first priority. Yeah. So it's about, okay, I have 10 things I want to master, but of course I have to focus on this first. Then once you get that, then the next thing takes priority. Definitely. So trying to balance and be like, oh, I'm going to do all this. I'm putting this to that side, and I'm putting all this to that side so it can be even. Yeah. That's kind of impossible, but taking ownership and holding yourself accountable to get all that you want to do done, but prioritizing it is what's most important.
Definitely. And let me be very clear through this whole conversation. We're not saying that your husband and that your children are not a priority, because they are. But guess who else is? You. Indeed. You are definitely still a priority.
Indeed. And that's what grace is also for. We have to be willing to show ourselves grace. A lot of times we're hard on ourselves because we didn't do X, Y, and Z, or we feel like we could have done better or done more. Yeah. But have you praised yourself for what you already done?
Right. Pat yourself on the back. Okay. Seriously. I told my husband, I was like, yo, we done earned some badges, some marriage badges in 2020, bro, because it has not been easy. But God's grace has truly kept us. So I hope this, I guess this is called a mukbang. Listen, y'all, I'm guessing that's what this is called. Let me know if y'all like, this, but I really hope that y'all understood where we are coming from when we say everything that we've said. We're not saying that it's, the only way to do things, but it's what we basically are sharing with you is our experience. And to me, that's one of the best things that we can share with you besides God's word, which is what we started out with, which is what we was all around that same verse, honey. So check yourself, self-assess, pray, always spend time with God. Let him tell you what you need to do, and know that if he gave you the gift, you can use it. And it is possible, because we can do all things through Christ that strengthens us. Balance is necessary. It is possible. Will you always get it right? No. Are you perfect? No. Is your husband perfect? No. And remember to always extend grace to yourself, to your spouse, to your children, to everyone, because that's what God gives us every day that he allows us to wake up. All right, y'all. We love you. Peace. We finish the seafood. Bye.